Have you ever had a second chance? Was it just luck? Did you work hard for it? Whatever the matter is, today, I'm here to tell you a story of a true second chance. 13 years ago, I moved from Kansas City, Missouri to Seoul, South Korea. No, I wasn't born in Kansas City. I'm a Korean-American adoptee. I'm from Korea. When I was 4 years old, I was adopted into a great, loving family. But I had this impeccable memory, so impeccable that I could remember the vivid, the raw emotions of a child. It's almost like a Polaroid picture of my 5 senses into a memory. And let me tell you, I wouldn't recommend any child to remember what I remembered. But today, I'm so grateful that I do. When I was 4 years old, I remember being abandoned, being abused, being out on the street, fighting other street kids, because that was my life in Korea. My life consisted of being abandoned, being hurt. Then finally, my Korean father made the ultimate decisions that day, and I was abandoned into the orphanage. In that orphanage, I remember cleaning toilets all day. I remember hardly having any food. I was just malnourished. I was unhappy. At the beginning and end of every day, I would just scream for my mom and dad, "Where are you?" During that time in my life, I hated the world. I hated myself. I hated my Korean parents. I hated everything. But one day, some Inspector Gadget-looking guy comes to the orphanage. He's actually my American family lawyer. He comes to pick me up. Off I go with him on the plane. I'm just kicking, screaming, biting because I get an ear infection. I get off the plane. I'm landed in the US of A. And from there, my lawyer hands me to my American mom and dad. I'm just so scared, fighting for survival, kicking, screaming. But then I look down, and I see somebody who looks like me. It's actually my older brother, who's a Korean-American adoptee as well. So I have a moment of silence. He puts out his hand and some candy, but then survival mode kicks in. I kick him in his face, and he goes, take him back to Korea." Pretty funny moment. Later, in that car, we go in the car, and I sit in my mom's lap. As I'm sitting in my mom's lap, I'm still kicking and screaming, but she shows me a photo album. I'm just transfixed right now. The first picture I see is a house. The second picture I see is my American mom and dad smiling with my older brother. Then lastly is a bed. Do you know what I did? I slept. Do you know why I slept that day? I didn't kick and scream anymore. Because I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what was given to me. A second chance. Family. But remember, new family equals new responsibilities. So what did I do from here on out? I learned how to embrace the hate. I lived it, I learned it, but eventually I respected it. I took everybody's negative emotions and all the negativity to propel myself to be happy. I took all the negativity to propel myself to reach my goals. Growing up, I took all the racial slurs, the racism, the bigotry, being called chinky face, being spit on as fuel to my fire to be joyful. Because I understood those people who did it to me. I understood that hate. Embrace the hate in order to understand true joy. So what did I do from here? Love yourself. Because if you love yourself, good things will come. You do it the opposite, it doesn't happen that way. Simple math. You blame other people, you point the finger, and negative emotions will bring you down, not raise you up. And my American dad taught me 2 very important phrases. It's very common in the Midwest. Son, life isn't fair, so get over it. Son, nothing good comes easy. It's so true. That taught me accountability right away. And I knew about that because I'm accountable for my own life, my own feelings, because when I was in that orphanage, I knew about what life wasn't fair. I knew that already, embraced it. But as I grew up, focusing on myself to be happy, to be a constructive force in nature, I forgot about my identity. I forgot about those Polaroid picture moments. I only focused myself on to be happy. My nickname in high school was called Chino. I lacked my Korean identity, and it was my fault. Accountability, remember? It's ironic, my nickname was Chino, my American name's Eric McDaniel, and my Korean name is Lee Dae-il. How confusing is that for somebody, losing their identity? But I did it. Then, I only focused on two things. I focused on my first love. I fell in love with baseball at the time. Just like any kid in America, they focus and they fall in love with their sports. Then I focused on academics because I'm not gonna be that poor little kid in the orphanage. Those two things propelled me to be somewhat successful. I received a scholarship playing baseball and academic scholarship as well, nearly paid for all my school. I even became the first, I believe, and the only Korean American adoptee to pitch left and right-handed at that time as a prospect. You're not the only one, Pat Venditti. But still lost my identity, didn't know, and I didn't care. Then, life has a funny way of throwing you curveballs. It threw me a huge one. My American dad got diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I was devastated, depressed, that the person I looked up to my entire life was so hurt. So I made an ultimate decision that year and to defer lots of my scholarships, the schools that I wanted to go to, and I moved back home to Kansas City just to be with him. And at that time, as a 21-year-old, I couldn't handle it. I let it get to me. I fell into severe depression, and I quit baseball. And I just finished school. For the first time in my life, I felt like that little boy in the orphanage, having nothing, nowhere to go, lost. But then, in university, I met my first Korean friend. And my first Korean friend taught me Korean phonetics, Korean culture, Korean food, and actually Korean dramas. The first one I watched was Stairway to Heaven. And you know what I did? I even tried to dress like the main supporting actor. But when I met him, those Polaroid picture memories came back up. I remembered almost everything that I could when I was little again. I had all these curiosities. So then I asked my American mom and dad, please, do you have any paperwork? And they gave them to me. And I found out that I have a half brother and sister as well too, and they were abandoned. So I knew what I had to do as a young adult. This was my second chance, my opportunity to find out who I was. So I packed up my bags, quit my job, sold my car, and off I go to the motherland to find my Korean father, my Korean mother, and my half-brother and sister. When I landed, I met with my Korean adoption agency, and they told me to, one, write a letter, a very good, positive, personal letter to them, and also pictures of myself growing up to show that I'm strong and I'm healthy. So I did it. Then they sent the telegrams out. Yes, in 2009, they sent telegrams still to them. And guess what happened a couple months later? I found them. Now I have the opportunity to find who I am and also rekindle a relationship with my Korean family. During that time, I found out that I'm not born in April, I was born in February. I don't know about the year, but I found out that I have aunts and uncles that were living in Orange County and LA the whole entire time before I was. And I found out that my half-brother, my half-sister were abandoned and adopted to France, and I was the last one abandoned. So now I knew what I had to do. I had a new task. That new goal was to provide a second chance for my brother and sister. Remember what I said earlier? New family equals new responsibilities. During that time, I found out that my mom supposedly was stabbed by my dad. And that's why she left, always searching for me. And now she's just a recovering alcoholic. Supposedly, my dad was a gangster back then who lied, cheated, did anything good to get what he wanted. But I knew this was my second chance, and I knew that now is the time to embrace that hate, to show my Korean father in Korea that I need to be more Korean, to show I'm never gonna be like him. And my next goal is to find my half-brother and sister, to let them know that somebody from their family, their blood, is gonna find them. So what did I do? I had to show my mother and father forgiveness, of course. I have to be patient. I knew that my mother or father had my half-brothers and sisters' pictures, and my father did. And during those 12 years, he refused to give them to me. But guess what? I found them. I found those pictures. But during that time in Korea, during those 12 years, I learned a lot about myself, and I did a lot of things. I became an event planner in Korea. One of the reasons why, so I can be the hub if they ever come back. And believe me, I networked like crazy. Anybody can tell you that. I also had the opportunity to have a Korean restaurant, partner into a Korean restaurant with my older brother from America, who's also a Korean adoptee. 뭐 들을까요? That was such a fun time. Then, ultimately, love has a funny way of working itself back around. I finally got the opportunity to play independent baseball in Korea as a player and instructor. And during that time, moreover, I linked up with so many adoption groups and online forums, just so I can have the ability, because I have the pictures now, to find them, to blast it out there, and to see what happens. So after 12 years, I waited to get those pictures from my father. And one Facebook post, just this past December, Merry Christmas happened, if you can read. I found them. So now we have the opportunity to be a family. It's our second chance. Now it's my half-brother and sister's second chance to find out who they are, to be more Korean. But there's another second chance here as well. My father. He now has a second chance to be a better father, to be a better person. Is he going to do it? The question still remains. But because I went through that adversity, I was patient, and I persevered, I can now help my brother and sister find out who their birth mother are. And I did that too. I had the ability to search for them and find their mother and facilitate that meeting. I did it. Me and the people around me. Now it's their opportunity to be more Korean and to come back and to recultivate the memories that I had. It's our opportunity, it's our second chance to be a family. Second chances come in numerous different ways. And usually these second chances come when something bad happens, right? So if a second chance ever comes your way, maybe it's in the form of getting that business opportunity, but you're too scared to do it. Or you have a fight with your mom and dad or your siblings, and your pride takes over. Something bad happens. Or maybe it's just simple. You like somebody and you want that second chance. Whatever it is, just know second chances come very rare. And when they do, work hard for it. Because when a second chance comes knocking on your door, what are you going to do? Thank you.